Happy Independence Day to all my fellow Indians. On this monumentous occasion of the 75th Independence Day, let's look at the history of our motherland, the Indus Valley Civilization. Hello everyone, I am Advaith, your host for the history of humankind, and you're watching my channel, Subodha. Now, I want to do something different for today's episode. Now, usually when we talk about different countries and their history, as we saw in Egypt and Sumer, we distribute the history of that country into different periods and we attempt to characterize each period. But no, that can't be said or done for the Indus Valley Civilization, because the lines between each period are very blurred, because excavations of this civilization were done as recently as in the late 1920s, and so not a lot is known about this civilization. So what will we be doing instead? What we'll be doing is, we'll look at the periods which historians classify the Indus Valley Civilization into. We'll take a brief look at it, and then we'll be looking at the different social aspects of the Indus Valley Civilization. Now, what do I mean by that? When I say social aspects, I mean things like architecture, art, culture, etc. So, today's episode is about the architecture of the Indus Valley Civilization. So, without further ado, let's begin, shall we? First, let's look at the cities in the Indus Valley Civilization. For a majority of its life, the civilization had four major cities. They were Mehergarh, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro and Lothal. The locations of these four cities are shown here. The blue pointer denotes the city of Harappa, the green pointer denotes the city of Mohenjo-daro, the pink one denotes the city of Mehergarh, and the white pointer denotes the city of Lothal. Now, talking about the periods, the first period in the history of the Indus Valley Civilization is called the early Harappan period. During this period, historians believe people began settling around the Indus River, and hence the civilization earns its name, the Indus Valley Civilization. Next is the phase of development or the mature phase, and the age of decline or the late period. Now, when we talk about the architecture of this civilization, it is important that we split it into various aspects. The first one of such aspects is that of utility. When we previously looked at the architecture in Egypt, we noticed a common theme in all of its architecture: beauty. Although the architecture in Egypt did serve a purpose, they were not completely useful for the common person. That is, they were more about the beauty rather than the utility. I mean, after all, the common person wouldn't go and live in a pyramid, right? But that wasn't the case with the Indus Valley Civilization. There was a reason for which every building was constructed. Unlike Egypt and Sumer, where the sole purpose of a building was that of beauty and symbolism, here in the Indus Valley Civilization, every single piece of architecture had a utility for the common person. This can be clearly evidenced by the fact that this civilization was the first to build homes on hills and mountains, a territory where no one ever built. This was because most other civilizations thought that building homes on rooftops, here I meant to say hilltops, not rooftops by the way, would not look good. But as we saw with the Indus Valley Civilization, utility was valued more than beauty. So, the Indus Valley Civilization had to protect it from a series of floods, and hence they used mountains and high altitudes to act as protection from these floods. Extremely clever considering the time period. Next aspect is the aspect of planning. This is perhaps the most fascinating thing about the Indus Valley Civilization's architecture, as we'll see. The planning in the city of Mohenjo-daro goes something like this. The city had two major categories for physiological divisions. The first one was the cost of real estate. Let me explain it here. If you see this, there are two divisions in the city. The grey part has a higher altitude and is called the Acropolis. The pink part has a lower altitude and is called the lower town. The Acropolis was built for more prosperous sections of the society who could afford high quality and high priced real estate, whereas the lower town was built for those who could not afford high prices of real estate. This was done so that all categories of people had a home to live in, an extremely clever tactic. The next physiological division was called the grid system. It went something like this. The city had different blocks like this. Each block had 6 or more colonies, and each colony had multiple homes. This was the grid system, which was extremely advanced for the time. Each of these divisions were extremely well built. All of this was because of the efficiency and quality of planning of each city. This was because a city's planning process went through multiple layers of bureaucracy and would be approved by a lot of architects, after which they would make effort estimations as to how much material was required and how much labor was required. And then finally, of course, the city would be built. This enabled them to build such a well-developed system of roads such that one could travel from any point to the other within nearly 10 or 15 minutes. This aspect is one which has been discovered extremely recently as of 2018. A study conducted by the Indian Institute of Technology in a place called Dholavira revealed some interesting aspects of Mohenjo-daro's hydraulic innovations. The study revealed that this region was once surrounded by a river called the MANHAR river, and its slope gently moved from west to east, which means that if there was ever a flood, then the eastern bank of the river would be flooded extremely heavily. People of Mohenjo-daro understood this, and so they built a reservoir, an artificial lake, along with a dam built out of fire brick to prevent the flooding. If the water ever crossed the dam, it would fill up the reservoir and provide fresh water to all of the citizens. Now, all of this may seem extremely basic as of 2022, but imagine this in effect over 4,000 years ago. It was more than just revolutionary for the time. And there we have it, the entire architecture of the Indus Valley civilization. To conclude, the Indus Valley civilization's architecture was, to put it simply, perfect. It was perfect for the time. It prioritized utility over beauty, something which most people still don't think of. And perhaps we can all learn something from that. If you enjoyed the video, then please make sure you like the video. And if you know someone who's interested in content like this, then please make sure to share it as well. If you're new to the channel, then please make sure that you're subscribed and that you click the bell icon. And I'll see you in the next one. Jai Hind!